So many of us live with regrets. I don't know about you, but I want to live in such a way that I have no regrets because I lived a purposeful life. God gives us our purpose to live with meaning and joy. When you discover this, you are truly fulfilled and you're inspired to help others. You become a legend when what you give to the world lives on forever. You have legendary faith when you live like there's no tomorrow with the purpose God created for you. As a result, you live with passion and purpose. My prayer is that I help you to find that purpose. Trust and believe God has the very best in store for you and your loved ones. My purpose in the show is to build your faith so that you can leave behind a legacy of faith that lives on forever. Your faith requires action, and this podcast is your action plan. Legendary faith is faith that will continue on throughout the generations. It starts with us and ends with Jesus. Hang tight, legend. God has the very best in store for you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. Episode 23, Leaving a Legacy of Faith. This is a newly titled podcast about leaving behind a legacy of faith because God created us for a faith-filled purpose that extends beyond ourselves. Now, my last show was Finding Hope in a Turbulent World. I wanted to shift the focus to faith because once we learn about faith, then we can have so much hope for our everyday lives. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not yet seen. It's in the believing for things that we do not yet see that we are blessed. So we don't physically see God, but we can feel Him in our hearts. He created us, and our acceptance of this brings peace, hope, joy, despite all the pains of this world. Essentially, faith is believing before seeing. And hope, well, hope is believing in better things to come, and there are always better things to come with Christ, the perfecter of our faith. When we live life with purpose and meaning, and you know who you truly belong to, you become a legend. You don't have to be fancy or have 1 million subscribers. I want you to learn to live life like a legend, God's way. Now, Michael Hyatt, in his book, Living Forward, says that, quote, by the time we hit 40 or 50, we find ourselves disoriented, exhausted, and adrift. We're overworked and our health isn't great. Our relationships have deteriorated. Life doesn't look anything like we previously imagined. And we have no idea how we've drifted so far, of course. So he's saying we need a life plan for the strategy. Michael goes on to say, the key message is, your vision of your legacy will guide the design of your life. Approach reflecting on your legacy just as you'd approach booking a vacation. Choose your destination first and then plan how to get there. Your legacy is your destination. Your life plan will be your means of getting there. To help you imagine your legacy, ask yourself what people would say about your life if you were to die today. Write your own eulogy. Be brutally honest about the highs and lows. This will reveal the areas of your life that are going well and the ones that need more attention. Reflect on who's at your funeral, too, and how they feel. What memories will people share? Are those memories rich and loving, or do they fall a little flat? How does that make you feel? Is there anything you wish people were saying but aren't? These reflections will reveal what's currently missing in your life. Once you've written your eulogy, create a list of legacy statements by identifying how you want the important groups of people in your life to remember you. These might include your family, friends, and work colleagues. Now, this is fair advice, but when we do this, I want you to get it, that we need to ensure that God is included in our eulogy. After all, hopefully when you die, you are good on meeting Him. And if you have built your faith, you will have no regrets. None of our lives will have been perfect, but if we have a relationship with Christ, we are content with this. We don't continually beat ourselves up. We can have peace and we can have all the forgiveness. Because let's face it, all of us need that, right? It's not easy, I know. I myself very often don't feel like a legend. But I can say at least I'm aware of this and at least I'm trying. And I've chosen to never give up. Now, thinking back when I was living in sin with an unwillingness to change, I was not thinking about what people would say at my eulogy. If I would have done this, I know that I would be very embarrassed. Therefore, of course, I chose to live in denial, at least until my life got so bad that I actually faced the possibility of death. It was staring me right in the face. Today, I'm saying don't wait until you're on your deathbed. Take steps today to live a life you can be proud of. I want to see your legacy live on for all eternity. Earthly legends change. John Wayne is a lot different than Prince. But we are not of this world. We belong to the maker of the world. When we share about God and his son, Jesus Christ, we share a legacy that has no end. It can be nice to remember our heroes from the past. My dad enjoys watching John Wayne movies, and sometimes I listen to Little Red Corvette by Prince. But then the song or the movie comes to an end. Then I go back to washing dishes or taking my kid to soccer practice, the things that sometimes we take for granted. Now I recognize that some may call the late Prince and many other earthly legends a true legend, but truthfully, it's what he's saying and not who he was that made him or them legendary. He will not hold a legacy in my heart because I know the song and the song maker are temporary. And this brings to mind a trophy that my husband, a safety reward that my husband brought home from work one time. And guess who broke it? Clumsy me. But you know what? Nothing in life is ever wasted. So I chose to place it up over my desk as a reminder. Of course, it was a reminder to him, but for me, it's a symbol. It symbolizes that earthly rewards are temporary. They can be broken, but all things broken can be put back together. But our focus should be on eternal rewards that last forever. And it starts today with the choices that we make so that we may become legendary. Now, even if there's nothing ethically wrong with your legend that comes to mind, the reality is that we need to build upon a legacy that will last for ourselves, that will ricochet to others. It starts with you and me. We need to trust in a legacy that will never fail us. And we need to trust in the true legend, Jesus Christ, who wants the very best for us. This legend does not look to the best interest of himself, but rather is interested in us, his chosen people. 1 Peter 2:9 says, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light." I want to stress that our purpose doesn't come from the world, it comes from God. I want you to start believing in the best for your life, or believing again. I want you to believe that you are not your mistakes. And I want you to join me in this faith journey. When we die, we may be able to hand down possessions, but we can truly make an impact when we leave behind a legacy of faith. How can you live differently today so that you can make a greater impact tomorrow? Comfortable is easy, and we are inclined to stay there, but we can't get to where we're going being comfortable. Unfortunately, Jesus was not comfortable at the cross. Yet what he did made a way for you and me so that we can have hope. Now we must believe and walk in this truth. This is your action plan to build your legacy. You see, generally, others know that we live in an imperfect world because they too missed the mark, just as Adam and Eve. Imperfections are nothing new. In the beginning of time, Adam and Eve were so ashamed of theirs, they thought they must hide behind a bush. I can relate to that. They were naked and ashamed. Let's stop living a life that we're ashamed of. Perhaps you did fight with your spouse the night before, but learn to live in such a way that people remember your willingness to forgive. Maybe you struggle with anger, but people remember you trying to resolve the anger. See, it's what you do after getting knocked down that counts. Because let's face it, all of us are going to get knocked down, and we do, day after day. But the true treasure is in the getting up and what we do about it. It's in the fight. And if we're on God's side, we already win. Choose today to start living a life full of purpose that you share with others, even after you're gone. The best gift you can bring to others is to introduce them to Christ. The best gift we can give to ourselves is discover our purpose in Him. We can only learn our true purpose in life when we begin walking with Christ. More on this in our next episode. We must start living that life now so that we are able to share. To move forward in faith, we must ask ourselves, do I acknowledge that I'm imperfect? Am I willing to forgive myself and look beyond myself to something as someone much greater? And I hope that answer for you is yes. I would love it if you would join me in striving to leave a legacy of faith. We know that when we die, as the Bible says, the things of this world will pass away. But we are striving here for a legacy that will live on forever, for a reward that lasts for all eternity, that cannot be broken by our clumsiness. In closing, leaving a legacy of faith ensures that others will come closer to God as a result of what they learned from you. On your deathbed, it's not going to matter that your husband bought you that fancy new car. Maybe he'll get to drive it. But what's more important is where he's driving it to. You want to ensure that those you leave behind are driving with an eternal purpose, that way they can join you. We can't wait until we're dead to leave a legacy. We've got to start building it now. In this, we find our identity and purpose. In this, we can truly live today. If we choose to put our identity in things, we lose sight of who we really are. We can easily see how the love of money will dry us out. The temptations are always there. We keep searching for the next high, all the while knowing we can't take these things with us. Friends, if we live this way, we will always be trading our car for something new. We'll be always craving for something new. But let's start craving for the afterlife. Let's change our perspective. The cycle of the world is to always search for the next big thing until it's no longer the next big thing. It's a continual cycle. If we choose, however, to put God first, we are the next big thing, both now and forever. Start living a life of faith now, not before it's too late. But even then, even if you are on your deathbed and you're just accepting Christ, you still have the best to come. You are more than the possessions you leave behind. Some people leave no possessions, yet are so rich in faith that their story is treasured forever. Let us purposely choose to shift our focus. If you're breathing, it's not too late. A message of faith will plant a seed in others for them to grow and bloom. I pray that you start planting today. And remember, before you can plant, you must have something to share. My question for you is, what do you have that is worthy of sharing? If it's nothing you're proud of, then start improving your life today, one step at a time. Just take action. I suggest building your faith, not because I think it sounds good, but because from my own experience, I have learned of God's grace and His love. I once lived in darkness and hopelessness myself, but I prayed and God heard me. And now I have a testimony, and so do you. By building your faith and learning about God, you will discover exactly what your testimony is. And that's where this show comes in. I'm excited to help you build your faith so you can leave behind an endless legacy. Thank you for joining me today. If you would like to hear more about me, you can go to alysamassey.com. And if you have a faith story to share, contact me at contact@alysamassey.com. Once again, that is contact@alysamassey.com. Our next episode will be about how to discover our purpose and walk in it. I spoke earlier in this episode about how we can only learn our true purpose in life when we begin walking with Christ. Therefore, we must learn to walk the narrow path instead of what is always appealing to society. So that will be our next episode. Thank you for joining me today. And remember, the best is yet to come.